was Bunker Bean? Well, Bunker Bean was a young man born into the tenements in the Lower East Side. He didn't have much money. He wore hand-me-down clothes. He was teased mercilessly by his classmates. And he really didn't feel like he was much of anything. When he got out of school and got a chance to get a job, the only thing available was as a clerk, a male clerk, in this big accounting firm. Fit his image. He was very, very despondent over what he was dealt with in life. And as he was walking through the tenements one night, he noticed that someone new had moved in over here. And he saw that there was a crystal ball in the living room. And he decided to find out what this was all about. So he walked in and introduced himself to the lady, and he said, "Excuse me, but could you tell me a little bit about what you do here?" And she said, "Oh, I'm a mystic, and I can tell people who they were in their previous life." He said, "Oh, that's interesting. Could you tell me who I was?" She said, "Well, it's going to cost." He said, "Well, I don't have any money." And she said, "Well, when you can get some money together, come see me again and I'll tell you who you were in your previous life." So Bunker Bean went out and he started collecting bottles and cans and running errands and shining shoes, anything he could do to earn a few pennies. And when he had gathered together all he could, he went back to the mystic and he said, "Is this enough?" And she looked at what he had and said, "Yes, that'll do." So he said, "Tell me, who was I?" She said, "Oh my heavens, you were Napoleon in your former life." And he said, "Napoleon? Oh yes, he was a great military strategist. He was well known." So she told him to go out and learn more about Napoleon. So he went to the library and he learned all about Napoleon, and it changed his attitude. So he went back to work and he began to show this new attitude to his boss. And he started climbing up the corporate ladder. And he met the boss's daughter and he married her. And he was so happy. Things were going so well for him. And then he wondered, who was I before I was Napoleon? So he went back to this mystic and he said, "Could you tell me who I was before I was Napoleon?" And she said, "Well, certainly, but it's going to cost you." He said, "That's no problem." So he peeled off some money and gave it to her, and she went to her crystal ball and she looked and said, "You were Ramses." He was known as the people's king. He dressed in the finest clothes and he did good things for his community, and everybody loved him. Oh, Bunker Bean was so encouraged. He went out and went back to his job and started volunteering time and became active on community boards. And he hired himself a tailor and got the best wardrobe. He was just the sharpest looking guy. And he did so much good for his neighborhood and for causes great and small. And then he got to thinking one day, I wonder who I was before I was Ramses. So he went back to the old neighborhood. But what he saw just absolutely floored him. Red and blue lights flashing all over the place and policemen all over. And he went up to the police officer and said, "What's going on here?" And the officer said, "We are arresting this lady. She's nothing but a con artist." He said, "A con artist? Excuse me, but she's been absolutely great. She's done the best thing she could for me. She let me know who I was, and I just can't believe that you're arresting her." "Oh yes, she's nothing but a con artist. All she does is take from people, and she doesn't have anything of redeeming value. We're taking her in." He was crushed. all this was just a sham? And then he got to thinking about it, and he realized when he thought he was Napoleon in a former life, he behaved one way. When he thought he was Ramses in a former life, he behaved another way. It wasn't who he was, but who he thought he was. Now you know, Bunker Bean, but the more important question is, who are you?